Why, hello, everyone. What an amazing study we have had so far. We have discovered so much about God, and this week will be another doozy. I am with Stuart Blade, Associate Pastor of Small Groups here at Eastview. Stuart, you were just sharing with me about a story on how God cared for you and your family. Would you mind sharing that again?
In 2006, I was living on the east coast of Florida. I was 25 years old. I had just been hired by the Satellite Beach Fire Department. My station was a couple blocks away from the ocean, and let's just say life was good. I had my dream job at the time. I was dating my dream girl who would later become my wife, and I did the next big step to become an adult. I bought my first home. It was 1 year later that our country entered a recession, and the value of our home had plummeted over $100,000, and our dream of moving closer to family pretty much just went up in smoke. It was 2 years later, Jackie and I were married. Money was tight. I was still working as a firefighter. Jackie was working as an elementary teacher, and yet we were still struggling to make ends meet. I remember the day Jackie and I went to go see a movie, and we pulled into the parking lot of the theater, but we never got out of the car because we didn't have $20 to pay for the movie tickets, let alone popcorn and a drink. For transparency's sake, and what I really mean was I was doing a lot of grumbling. I blame myself, I blame others, I blame God for the hardship. My grumbling continued for over 4 years as we continually prayed that God would break us free from the weight of this financial burden. It was during this season, my consistent prayer was that we would be able to move out from underneath this overwhelming debt, ultimately relocate to our families back in Illinois. And if you're thinking, yes, that's crazy, moving from Florida to Illinois, yes, it was. But we had this dream that we wanted to work towards, and I was submitting applications to 3 different fire departments in the state of Illinois. The first 2 jobs fell through, and I wasn't hired, and it left me with one other shot. And over the next several months, I was flying into Bloomington on 3 different occasions to go through the hiring process. Did I mention that we were, again, barely making ends meet, and yet here I was buying another round of plane tickets without knowing if any of this was going to pay off. And here's what's crazy. When we were so convinced that our time in Florida was coming to an end, we started to pack our belongings even before I had received word from Bloomington Fire Department. And I know what you're thinking. My father's voice is in my head, like, don't quit a job until you have another. But we really felt as though God was with us in this move. And in March of 2012, our belongings were completely packed. The moving van was loaded, and I had just completed the last sweep of our house before we locked it up for the last time. And we were set to head to Illinois the following morning. I stood there in the driveway with my father, questioning whether I was making the right decision. My mind was filled with doubt. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that no more than a minute after we had locked the door to our home, I received a phone call from Human Resources with Bloomington to let me know that I had passed all their tests and was given the official start date, and I would start the next month. And I broke down crying on the phone, and I could barely even muster out the words to say thank you. And as I'm looking back and retelling this story, I can see how God was caring for us through the whole process. Even when I was grumbling, He was gracious.
Wow, that was amazing, Stuart. God is gracious and takes care of us. He knows what we need and when we need it. Amazing. Okay, now on to our lesson. Why, look who it is. It's my favorite Eastview kids, which can only mean one thing. It's time for some more experimental science, where we are using our brain power and science experiments to understand God's Word, the Bible. Let's get started with today's story.
Let's do a quick review. Who rescued the Israelites from Egypt with those powerful plagues?
God.
And who stayed with the Israelites and guided them in a pillar of cloud during the day and pillar of fire at night?
God did.
And who parted the Red Sea so they could escape the Egyptian army?
That would be God.
I'm seeing a pattern. Whenever the Israelites needed something, God always took care of them. It may not have been in the way they wanted, but God always did the best thing for his children.
So you would think the Israelites would have been happy with what God had done for them. But
they were hangry, which means they were so hungry they were angry. They said they wished they were back in Egypt because although they were slaves, they had plenty of food. Did you hear that? It's crazy. They wanted to trade their freedom for food.
Now, it wasn't like there was a restaurant around in the middle of the desert.
That's right. There are probably as many as 3 million Israelites. How would they all find food to eat?
Well, just like he always does, God took care of his children. God rained bread down from heaven.
It was a miracle. Food fell down from the sky. Every morning there was a frost of thin flakes that covered the ground. These flakes were called manna, and they were just what the Israelites needed to make bread.
God told the Israelites that they were to collect 2 quarts of manna for each person in their family every morning, because in the heat of the day, the manna would melt away. Oh, and there was an extra special rule. They were not to save any of it for the next day.
Wouldn't you know it, some of the Israelites disobeyed and tried to save the manna.
When will they learn to just obey?
In the morning, the manna that was saved began to stink, and it was full of nasty bugs called maggots.
God also told the Israelites to collect twice as much on the day before the Sabbath, because no manna would come from the sky on the Sabbath. You would think the Israelite nation would be happy because they had bread to eat, right? Wrong.
The people began to complain because they wanted meat to eat.
Seriously?
So God sent them quail. In fact, there was so much quail that at least 20 miles in every direction, the quail were heaped on each other a yard high.
Now, if you don't know, a yard equals 3 feet, so the piles of birds were 3 feet high. Now, to help us understand what 20 miles in every direction might look like, check out this map. We are here in Bloomington Normal, Illinois. There would be quail past Lexington, past Leroy, past Funk's Grove, close to Goodfield, and past El Paso. That, my friends, is a lot of quail.
God took care of the Israelites by providing manna, which tasted like wafers with honey, and by providing plenty of meat from the quail.
So let's review everything God did for the Israelites. God rescued them from Pharaoh, guided them through the desert, saved them again by parting the Red Sea, and now he made sure that they had plenty to eat. God always takes care of his children.
Today's big idea: God cares for us.
Let's fill up the beaker by answering questions from today's story. The Israelites wished they were back in Egypt because they wanted food or clothes. The Israelites wanted food. The manna tasted like wafers and jam or honey. The manna tasted like wafers and honey. On what day did manna not cover the ground? Sabbath or Passover? Sabbath day. It is a holy day of rest. The piles of quail were 20 miles in every direction, and how many feet high? 1 or 3? 3 feet high. Nice work. Now check out what's bubbling out of the beaker. Cool fun facts.
The manna God provided was said to taste like honey. Do you know that a single honeybee will visit 50 to 100 flowers on a single trip out of its beehive? To make 1 pound of honey, the bees in the colony must visit 2 million flowers. That's a lot of work. Maybe that's why we use the expression, busy as a bee.
I have a question. If God cares for us, why do bad things happen?
I'm Pastor Amy, and I'm here to answer all of your experimental questions. Good question. God does love us and cares for us, and gives us everything we need, just like he did for the Israelites. But the problem is, we live in a broken world. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God in the Garden of Eden, sin entered the world and messed everything up. but we can be thankful that God made a way for us to be friends with Him and be with Him in heaven. So even when bad things happen, we know God is with us and He will take care of us.
Hey everyone, Jason here, and I'm back with another memory verse for this week. Today, let's take a look at Exodus 16:15. Listen as I say the verse, and then we will all say it together. Exodus 16:15. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given to you to eat." Okay, now that you've heard it, say it with me. Exodus 16:15. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given to you to eat." Great work. Now read this verse out loud 20 times, and then you'll have it memorized in no time at all. If you'd like more tips on scripture memorization, check out page 47 of the notebook. But for now, let's check back in with the professor.
Well, hello there. I'm glad you're back because I have another wonderful experiment to show you. Today's story showed us how much God cared for the Israelites. He takes care of us too. Every single day, His love and care for us just keeps pouring out. Let me show you. Today we're going to use 2 tablespoons of water, half a cup of hydrogen peroxide, an empty water bottle, a funnel, a teaspoon of dry yeast, some dish soap, and food coloring. Now, mix the water and yeast together and set it aside. Now pour the hydrogen peroxide into the water bottle. Add a squirt of dish soap to it. Then add some food coloring down the insides of the water bottle. Place the funnel into the water bottle and add the yeast water mixture. Remove the funnel and watch what happens. Just like this foam keeps coming and coming, so does God's love and mercy keep coming every single day. Remember today's big idea. God cares for us.